The White House's DOGE, led by Elon Musk, has cut over $1 billion in spending within 3 weeks, primarily targeting diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, as well as digital modernization and office leases. DOGE aims for $2 trillion in cuts and is now shifting its focus to larger programs like Medicare and Medicaid, where it is investigating potential fraud. The initiative has faced legal and political challenges, with courts temporarily blocking efforts to dismantle agencies and limit spending that was previously approved by Congress. Critics argue that DOGE is not effectively targeting wasteful spending and should focus on excessive contractor payments and militarist costs. Despite controversy, Musk and the Trump administration continue pushing for rapid government spending reductions, with plans to release a full report by July 4, 2026. Some Black and Latino supporters of President Trump approve of his efforts to dismantle federal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, though some worry about the potential rise in discrimination. Trump's campaign saw an increase in non-white voter support compared to previous elections, and he has prioritized eliminating DEI initiatives through executive orders. While some non-white voters back his focus on merit-based hiring, others are uneasy with his rhetoric, such as blaming a plane crash on diversity efforts. Economic concerns like inflation and immigration influence many voters shift toward Trump, despite their reservations about his comments on race. Some critics fear his policies will marginalize minorities, while supporters emphasize the importance of skill-based opportunities. The Trump administration has introduced a new media seat in White House press briefings, allowing podcasters, TikTokers, and YouTubers to participate alongside traditional journalists. White House press secretary received over 11,500 applications, prioritizing those who can quickly attend in person. Conservative influencers such as the Ruthless Podcast and Steve Bannon's War Room have gained access, while some left-leaning influencers express skepticism about fair representation. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has reshuffled media access, replacing major outlets like the New York Times and CNN with conservative and independent news sources. These moves reflect the broader shift toward decentralizing traditional media influence in favor of alternative platforms. Elon Musk is applying his signature move fast and claim victory strategy to Washington, using relentless momentum to push controversial government reforms under the Trump administration. His DOGE team has aggressively cut bureaucratic spending, gutted USAID, and taken control of projects like upgrading air traffic control, drawing both praise from Republicans and legal challenges from Democrats. Musk's tactics resemble his Twitter takeover, but critics argue he is overstepping his authority, with some calling his actions a hostile takeover of the government. Despite legal and political opposition, Musk's approach has gained Wall Street approval, reinforcing his belief that precision of momentum equals success. Trump, known for valuing public victories, has so far backed Musk's efforts, keeping him in the administration's good graces for now. President Trump is rapidly reshaping the U.S. government and global economy through aggressive policy changes, including cutting federal programs, imposing tariffs, and reversing climate and diversity initiatives. His actions have led to economic disruptions such as layoffs in Canada, halted solar projects in West Virginia, and uncertainty in international trade. Some business leaders initially welcomed deregulation, but are now concerned about the unpredictability of executive orders. Federal funding freezes have impacted social services, with Head Start programs and community health centers struggling to stay open. Additionally, fear of deportation has caused undocumented immigrants to skip work and keep their children out of school. The Trump administration is expanding its use of Guantanamo Bay to detain migrants with criminal backgrounds, emphasizing a hardline stance on immigration. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is set to visit the facility following flights carrying high-risk migrants, including gang members from Texas to the naval base. The administration plans to construct a facility capable of holding up to 30,000 migrants, significantly increasing detention capacity. Legal experts question the administration's authority to transfer migrants already on U.S. soil to an offshore facility, arguing it may violate constitutional and immigration rights. Critics suggest the administration views Guantanamo as a way to bypass legal protections and keep detainees out of sight, out of mind. The White House is preparing an executive order to lay off thousands of employees from the Department of Health and Human Services, including the FDA, CDC, and other agencies. The job cuts would require these agencies to reduce staff by a set percentage, though final terms are not yet confirmed and the White House may still cancel the plan. HHS, which has over 80,000 employees, handles critical functions like drug approvals, disease tracking, and medical research, so staff reductions could impact these efforts. Officials have been instructed to identify essential probationary workers who must be retained and those who can be let go more easily. While the Trump administration set a deadline for buyout offers, a judge has temporarily halted the process due to legal challenges. China's biotech industry is rapidly emerging as a major competitor to the US, with companies developing drugs faster and more affordably. A key moment came when Summit Therapeutics, using a drug license from China's Akeso, outperformed Merck's Keytruda in a lung cancer trial, highlighting China's growing role in drug innovation. The country's biotech rise is driven by returning scientists, cost-effective clinical trials, and streamlined regulations, making it attractive for pharmaceutical giants like Merck and AstraZeneca to license drugs from Chinese firms. This trend is creating challenges for US biotech companies as investors struggle to assess competition and valuations. While this benefits patients with cheaper and more effective treatments, it poses strategic concerns for US policymakers aiming to maintain the nation's innovation leadership. Giants Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Meta are significantly increasing their investments in AI, with projected capital expenditures exceeding $215 billion in 2025. Despite concerns about China's DeepSeek developing competitive AI with fewer resources, US tech leaders remain confident in their innovations and cost-cutting strategies. Amazon is set to spend over $100 billion, primarily on AI-related cloud computing, while Alphabet plans to boost its AI infrastructure spending from $52.5 billion to $75 billion. Microsoft expects to allocate $80 billion to AI data centers, anticipating rising demand as AI becomes more efficient. Meta will increase spending by 70%, reaching up to $65 billion, betting on its AI advancements to maintain a competitive edge. The Trump administration has initiated a large-scale purge of senior officials within the FBI and Justice Department, targeting those involved in investigations related to Trump's probes. Dozens of career officials and prosecutors have been fired, with more potential dismissals expected as part of a shift in priorities toward illegal immigration and street crime over national security and white-collar cases. Kash Patel, Trump's pick for FBI director, is expected to redirect resources from counterterrorism and counterintelligence to focus on drug trafficking and violent crime. The Justice Department's oversight under Emil Bove has also intensified, with agents ordered to comply with tough immigration directives, including the surveillance of suspected illegal immigrants. Amid this turmoil, many FBI agents are concerned about political retribution, leading to confusion and a slowdown in the agency's operations. Carl's Jr. has revived its provocative advertising style with a new campaign featuring influencer Arleeks Earl, marking a return to its racy marketing after abandoning it in 2017. The ad, which promotes a hangover burger, features Earl in minimal clothing and includes a self-aware, humorous tone aimed at Gen Z audiences. This shift reflects broader cultural changes and aligns with the return of President Trump to office, as noted by marketing experts. The campaign also references past Carl's Jr. ads like a nod to Paris Hilton's 2005 commercial, blending nostalgia with modern influencer appeal. The company plans to gauge the success of the campaign through social media engagement and sales metrics. Lawmakers are set to introduce a bill to ban the DeepSeek chatbot app from U.S. government devices due to concerns it could transmit user data to the Chinese government. The bill comes after security experts discovered hidden code in the app that sends user information to China Mobile. DeepSeek, a Chinese AI company, quickly gained popularity in the US but has faced scrutiny over data privacy. Other countries, including Australia, Italy, and South Korea, have already banned the app from government systems. This move follows Congress's previous action to ban the Chinese-owned TikTok app from government devices. President Trump made several significant moves to advance his agenda. He expressed a preference for a verified nuclear peace agreement with Iran over military action, dismissing reports of imminent U.S.-Israel aggression. Trump swore in Pam Bondi as Attorney General, praising her impartiality despite her Republican ties. He also met with Texas Governor Greg Abbott to discuss border security and migrant detention, with Abbott requesting $11 billion in federal reimbursement. Additionally, Trump signed an executive order banning transgender athletes from competing in women's sports and met with California Governor Gavin Newsom to discuss disaster relief for the state. President Trump's proposal to take over and rebuild Gaza has caused significant division within the Republican Party, with many allies expressing skepticism about its feasibility and wisdom. While the White House insists that U.S. taxpayers won't fund the plan and that Palestinian relocations would be temporary, concerns remain over the potential for military involvement. Some Republicans, like Steve Bannon and Senator Kevin Cramer, have criticized the idea as impractical, while some see it as a visionary but difficult endeavor. Trump's announcement reportedly surprised many of his own aides and military officials who had not been briefed beforehand. The plan has also faced strong opposition from Middle Eastern countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, while some far-right Israeli politicians have praised the approach. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency representatives have gained access to key payment and contracting systems at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to investigate potential fraud and waste. They're reviewing CMS technology, spending, organizational structure, and staffing while coordinating with senior agency officials. Musk commented on the investigation, claiming Medicare is a major source of financial fraud as his allies expand influence across federal agencies. Doge's access to CMS systems is currently read-only, and they have not yet accessed sensitive personal health or accounting data. Meanwhile, Dr. Mehmet Oz has been nominated to lead CMS, though he awaits Senate confirmation. More than 40,000 federal workers have accepted the resignation offer from the Trump administration, though this number may fall short of the administration's target for voluntary workforce reductions. Many employees are hesitant due to uncertainty about whether they will be paid through September and concerns over future job prospects. The administration is also pressuring agencies to identify probationary employees who could be laid off later. Some workers are refusing to resign out of pride in their public service roles despite increased workplace uncertainty. The situation has led to fears of government brain drain and difficulties in managing operations with a reduced workforce. President Trump signed an executive order directing the Treasury and Commerce Departments to explore creating a U.S. sovereign wealth fund, which he suggested could play a role in a potential TikTok deal. He compared the envisioned fund to Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and expressed confidence that it would become one of the largest globally. While the specifics of how the fund would be used in relation to TikTok remain unclear, Trump has advocated for U.S. government ownership in the joint ventures for the app's U.S. operations. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that the fund would be established within 12 months and would monetize U.S. assets for public benefit. Questions remain about the fund's financing, as the U.S. lacked the natural resource surpluses that typically fund sovereign wealth funds, though Trump previously suggested using tariff revenues. President Trump clarified that Elon Musk's role in the government remains advisory, and any actions he takes require White House approval. Musk has already begun dismantling agencies like USAID, sparking protests and legal challenges from Democrats and labor unions. Concerns are growing over Musk's influence as he operates with temporary government status and access to sensitive data while pushing for widespread cuts and AI-driven reforms. Doge's rapid changes have caused confusion and fear among federal employees, particularly in agencies like the Education Department, which could be next for major reductions. Meanwhile, resistance is mounting with protests, lawsuits, skepticism over the administration's offer for federal workers to resign with deferred pay. President Trump has imposed tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China to pressure them into curbing the flow of illicit fentanyl into the U.S., which has fueled the devastating overdose crisis. Mexico is the primary source of fentanyl, with cartels like Sinaloa and Jalisco producing and smuggling the drug, while Canada has become a growing hub for cartel operations. China, though it banned fentanyl production in 2019, still supplies precursor chemicals to drug manufacturers in Mexico and beyond. Both Mexico and Canada have pledged increased security measures, such as deploying border forces and cracking down on cartel activities, while Canada is also listing cartels as terrorist organizations. China remains hesitant to impose further regulations, arguing that the U.S. should address its own internal drug crisis rather than blaming foreign suppliers. President Trump's tariff policies saw major reversals over 48 hours, initially threatening universal tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China before delaying those on Canada and Mexico after high-level negotiations. The auto industry, energy sector, and unions scrambled to secure exemptions, with automakers briefly hopeful for a carve-out before Trump overruled his advisors and imposed broader tariffs, only to later pause them for diplomatic concessions. Mexico agreed to deploy National Guard troops to curb migration, while Canada committed $1.3 billion to border security, leading to a temporary 30-day delay in tariffs. The unpredictability of Trump's decisions left markets and businesses reeling, with corporate leaders struggling to navigate the volatile trade environment. Despite the pauses, tariffs on China remain set to take effect, highlighting Trump's aggressive stance on trade and economic protectionism. Trump has aggressively moved to restrict both legal and illegal immigration, shutting down the asylum system and pausing refugee admissions, including for Afghans who aided the U.S. military. His administration is attempting to end birthright citizenship, reinstate the public charge rule to limit green cards, and expand travel bans beyond those imposed during his first term. Trump is also pushing for ideological screenings for visa applicants and narrowing eligibility for high-skilled worker visas like the H-1B. While many voters support broader security and deporting criminals, key elements of his plans, such as ending birthright citizenship and mass deportations, face significant public opposition and legal challenges. Despite these hurdles, Trump's efforts reflect a broader shift towards stricter immigration policies, leveraging voter dissatisfaction with the Biden administration's handling of migration. Elon Musk's team, operating under the banner of Doge, swiftly secured access to sensitive systems at both the Treasury Department and USAID. Their actions are part of a broader effort to dismantle federal agencies and cut what Musk describes as excessive government spending. This aggressive maneuver has sparked bipartisan outrage, with critics arguing that Musk outsteps his authority by attempting to overturn spending priorities set by Congress. In one incident, USAID security officials were placed on administrative leave after resisting DOJ's requests for classified access, intensifying concerns over national security. Despite the controversy, President Trump has publicly endorsed Musk's cost-cutting initiatives, even as lawmakers warn of the unprecedented disruption to government operations. Elon Musk was surprised by reports of a high sickness absence rate at Tesla's Berlin factory, where workers can receive full pay for up to 6 weeks of illness. Managers, including Musk's local deputy, began tracking down absent employees, citing unusually high absenteeism that some attributed to a heavy workload. This issue has intensified tensions between Tesla's American work culture and Germany's more work-friendly European practices, with the union IG Metall criticizing the company for overworking its staff and hindering union activities. Musk has expanded his criticism to European bureaucracy, recently endorsing the far-right Alternative for Germany party and calling for deregulation. Overall, the conflict at the Berlin plant underscores broader challenges over unionization and labor practices in the automotive industry, with potential legal battles looming in Germany. Russia is aggressively expanding its military and economic footprint in Arctic, positioning itself to dominate the region. Rapid climate change has reduced sea ice, opening new maritime routes and access to previously inaccessible resources. Moscow is bolstering its presence by conducting military drills, deploying nuclear-powered icebreakers, and deepening strategic ties with China. In contrast, the US and its NATO allies, including Canada, are struggling with outdated infrastructure and limited Arctic capabilities. As a result, the Arctic is rapidly evolving into a highly contested arena where resource opportunities and geopolitical rivalries are increasingly converging. A new study by First Street projects that climate change could reduce U.S. home values by about $1.47 trillion by 2055. The decline is driven by rising home insurance costs and a shift away from high-risk neighborhoods prone to extreme weather events like hurricanes, wildfires, and droughts. Certain regions, including Fresno County, California, and parts of New Jersey, are expected to suffer the most due to higher insurance premiums and population declines. While overall home values might still grow, communities facing significant climate risks will see smaller gains compared to safer areas. Additionally, as more Americans factor climate risks into their relocation decisions, local property tax revenues and market dynamics are likely to be affected. NVIDIA remains committed to the Chinese market despite increasing U.S. export restrictions and national security concerns. The company has developed specialized chip variants like the H800, H800, and H20 that comply with U.S. regulations while still meeting China's demand for advanced AI technology. A breakthrough by Chinese firm DeepSeek using these modified NVIDIA chips sparked investor worry and intensified regulatory scrutiny. U.S. officials and lawmakers are divided over balancing national security with maintaining America's technological leadership and revenue from global sales. Despite these challenges, NVIDIA views its long-term presence in China as essential for staying at the forefront of the global AI race. President Trump has imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of imports from several countries, a move that has unsettled investors, economists, and lawmakers alike. Critics argue that these tariffs, affecting goods like crude oil, auto parts, and produce, will create a self-inflicted supply shock by raising consumer prices and disrupting trade. In response, major trading partners such as Canada, China, and Mexico have announced retaliatory tariffs, potentially escalating the trade conflict and hurting U.S. industries. While some Republicans defend the policy as a means to boost revenue and preserve jobs, many experts warn that the tariffs could slow economic growth and spark higher inflation. The long-term effects remain uncertain, as the balance between these trade measures and planned tax cuts and deregulation will determine the overall economic impact.